Hi there, this is Erica Merrill. I'm the founder of Perfect Legal Video. And as you know, I have been conducting some interviews with fantastic attorneys. And with some of the current events we have going on today, I thought it would be great to talk to some bankruptcy attorneys about what is going on with stimulus packages and that sort of thing. And it is my pleasure to have one of my clients with us today. Attorney Robert Geller is out of Tampa, and he is a bankruptcy attorney, and he has got a lot of great information. Thank you so much for joining us today, Robert.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm glad to be here and I'm glad to talk about this.
Now, I know that you've already even today done a separate video for your clients because you're getting a lot of phone calls with people that have questions because they are concerned about not being able to pay their bills. So I'm glad that you're willing to repeat everything for us here today. I think it's going to be a great conversation.
Yeah, I think that unfortunately there's a lot of people in our country that are going through a very difficult situation right now. People are in fear of course, their health. They're a little bit in fear of their future economically. And many of my clients have reached out for my assistance.
Now, I'm sure one of the first questions that they have, and what a lot of people have, is about the new act that has come out that is going to provide for some financial support and relief. And the first thing that I'd like to talk about are, the facts about the stimulus checks that are coming out.
Yeah, so there's really 2 or 3 parts of the stimulus package. And the first part that pretty much every American is going to benefit from is the stimulus money. And essentially what that means is that each adult in the United States who is going to receive $1,200 so long as their income does not exceed $75,000 a year. For a married couple, they would get, of course, $2,400. And for each child in the household, you will get $500. So if the income does exceed $75,000 for an individual or $150,000 for a couple, then the stimulus money may go down a little bit. But the way they're distributing that money is if the IRS has your bank account information from you filing your tax return and getting a refund, they're going to distribute that money directly into your bank account. And if they don't have your bank account information, as long as they have your home address, my understanding is they're going to be mailing you a check for your stimulus money. And again, you should be receiving that in about 3 weeks.
Well, that's really great. Do people have to do something, apply for it, anything like that in order to receive a check?
No, as long as you have filed a tax return, they know where you are, they know what your income is, and like I said, they will send you your money, $1,200. So that's essentially how it works.
Now, if you already owe taxes, will they still send it to you?
No, the stimulus package includes a provision that the IRS will not, or the stimulus money will not be set off against money that you owe to the IRS. This money is coming unconditionally to you. Many times I've had clients come to me who are expecting a tax refund in the past, and they filed their tax returns and they owe IRS money, then if it's coming from a refund, the IRS would take your money. But if the stimulus money, the IRS won't take that stimulus money.
Okay, and it's not taxable itself either.
Correct. There's no tax on it. And the other thing about it is it's not even considered income. What you make in income can be an important issue in a bankruptcy, but there's a specific provision in the stimulus package that says that the money you get from the stimulus bill is not considered income for bankruptcy purposes.
Okay, well, that's good. I mean, that's all good information to know. What if you're already receiving government assistance? Say, for example, you're unemployed.
So, in addition to getting that stimulus money, as long as you're an adult, and you will still get the $1,200, still going to get your stimulus money even if you're unemployed. One of the other important facets of the stimulus bill is that, unfortunately, a very substantial part of our working population have been laid off and lost their employment because, well, a lot of people work in the restaurant industry or the travel industry, and in a lot of different industries that have had to been forced to lay off people, and and many of them are my clients. And fortunately, under the stimulus bill, you're going to get, in addition to what the state would give you for unemployment, you're going to get an additional $600 a week in unemployment benefits. So, being somebody who lives in Florida, I think the maximum you can get in Florida if you become unemployed is $275 a week. So on top of that $275, you can get up to an additional $600 a week. So people could potentially get $875 a week in unemployment benefits. And that, in my view, is a really big plus for people under the stimulus bill, even more than just the flat stimulus money. So that's something everybody should be looking into. I have talked to my clients and I've told them to immediately apply for unemployment because that money is really important to them.
Wow, I mean, that's really great. And, as we're going through this and we're unpacking all of the different types of stimulus, it's really amazing to see all of the different facets. So this is good news. And, amongst all the bad news we're seeing on TV, I'm glad that we're able to continue to bring some good news here to people that might be suffering right now. And so with that said, let's talk about mortgages and any information you have about whether you can get a break on your mortgages. I know that the news isn't the best with this one, but at least there's a little bit of relief right now.
Yeah, Eric, I would love to talk about the mortgages. Before I go into that, let me just mention one other thing about the stimulus bill that can be applicable to many people who are self-employed or running a business. Some of them are my clients or former clients. There's also the third aspect of the stimulus package is that there's the Sba loan. So if you're running a business, let's say you have a restaurant, you've had to lay off your employees, you can apply to the Sba and get money to pay your staff and pay your rent and pay your overhead expenses. It's about 2.5 times your monthly payroll, and you can borrow that money at a very low interest rate, and I think it's 0.5%, and you don't have to pay it back for 6 months. And for whatever you have paid out to your employees, your staff, or whatever you've paid out for your rent, potentially you can get forgiveness of the loan so that you don't have to pay that back. So that's just a third aspect for those people who are running a business and trying to keep the lights on and try and keep their employees paid. So and it's also important to my clients to know that hopefully their employers will be able to keep them on, because hopefully their employers are applying for this, and that's something, if they don't know, their employers don't know, maybe they ought to tell their employers this is something to look into, because employers can potentially get up to $10 million to fund their payroll and those kinds of expenses.
And what about, yeah, right. So there's payroll, and then those are two different things, right? There's the small business loan, and then there's the payroll loan. Is that right?
Well, it's all part of the small business loan, but yes.
So there's two potential, situations where businesses can be helped out during this time, because not everybody has an essential business. So, with the shutdown, like you said, restaurants and hair salons and nail salons, and I'm thinking of all the things that I'm going to be missing out on. I'm going to be looking pretty bad.
Yeah, in fact, the Florida governor today finally, signed a shelter-in-place order for all non-essential businesses. Florida has been a little bit behind the curve on that. I'm glad to see that the governor's done that. So yeah, movie theaters and all those kinds of things are going to be considered non-essential businesses. But the good news is that hopefully their employers can apply for the small business loan, pay their staff rather than laying them off, and because that would be good for everyone.
Absolutely. I think that's a really important information, and maybe it's good that you guys are a little bit behind, because this information is coming out now, whereas New York, for example, they've been in shelter in place for at least 2 weeks, maybe a little more, and I'm in the Boston area, and we've been in shelter in place for a week, about just a day over a week. And so the schools are going to be out for longer. They've told us the schools will be out until May, and probably not even coming back this year. But
yeah, I don't think that I don't think that anybody's going anywhere until the middle of June at the earliest, maybe not until July. I think that's I think, and this is just my personal view of this, but I think that they're kind of rolling this out more than telling, meaning that the president, first we rolled out 15 days, now we're rolling out 30 days. And I think that potentially we're going to be rolling out another month after that. And it's good to see that, we're doing this, because it's really the only way to stop this and really to save lives, which, ultimately is the most important thing.
I know. Yep, it's absolutely true. I mean, it's a really scary situation out there. I don't know many people that don't have elderly parents. I know that you do, and I know someone that is plenty of people that have elderly parents that have health issues that this is very scary for. And heck, it's even scary for younger folks as well. So this is really good, and I know that for most people that have been screaming to open the country back up again, this will at least help make it a little easier for people for the next month or two, however long it takes to get things back to normal and to flatten the curve, as they say. So I didn't want to cut you short on the stimulus bill.
No.
I did have questions about entrepreneurs, and I think I skipped it by mistake. So that's great. Is there anything else that we should know about it?
No, my heart goes out to all those people who have, elderly parents and, parents that are in a nursing home. I have a mother who's in a nursing home, and I can't even see her. Fortunately for technology, though, I can FaceTime her. I mean, that's just a fantastic thing, and we're all lucky that we can have that kind of technology, that I can pick up the phone and at least talk to my mother, and my family can. On a personal note, that's just tremendous, and we're lucky we're able to do that.
We are. And you know what? I have a little kid. She's going to be 7 next month. This month. Wait, what month are we in? We're in April. Yeah, she's going to be 7 this month. And she's doing virtual play dates on Zoom. And, you know, it's interesting. I was feeling bad for her because they're so used to being with their friends every single day at school. And she usually has a big birthday party. She's not going to have that. But they really love their time. They still love their time with their friends, and it's not phasing them. So, yeah. So there's that on the personal note as well. Everyone's adjusting, and I think it's great that we have this communication like the way
Yeah.
we're doing.
And we'll, you know, and churches will have Easter services by Zoom meeting and virtual meetings, and you know, synagogues will have, you know, Passover services, and families will join together in Zoom meetings for Passover seders, and
Yeah,
you know, the technology, you know, will really help a lot of people get through this. That's the, you know, that's really the great thing about, for me too, in running my law firm, is that all my staff has been working virtually for 2.5 weeks. Thank God they're all healthy, and we're all communicating actually better than ever. And you know, it's created a great team, and we're getting things done, and you know, filing cases, meeting with new clients, answering our clients' calls. And the more we learn this technology, the better off we're all going to be. And it's just, you know, there is a lot of positive to all of this. It's forced. It's not the way we want it, but you know, it's not the way we want to learn. But you know, I guess the pandemic gun to our head, but it is, you know, we are doing it.
absolutely. So let's move on to mortgages. I mean, that's usually one of the biggest bills that a family has, you know, for their home. And you know, what are the rules for that? Are they forgiving a couple of months of payments, or I mean, it would be nice if they were deferring it to the end of the loan, but I don't think that that's what's happening. But what have you seen?
So one of the other parts of the legislation, or the I don't know if it's necessarily part of the stimulus or just basically part of the Treasury Department, but the mortgage loans that are backed by the federal government, which would be like Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, or I guess, you know, any VA loans, any of those loans, I know that there's a directive that they not foreclose on those things, pursue any kind of foreclosure right now. I think that they are also, most of those loans, I think you have to check with your lender, but I think they are basically letting you skip a month payment, but I think you really have to check. Now, there are a lot of mortgages out there that are not federally backed, so you got to be really careful. Don't just assume that you can just skip a payment without, you know, checking with your lender and getting. And I would recommend that if you're going to do that, I don't care if it's a federal loan or not, you make sure that you get it in writing, that you can do whatever anybody tells you can do as far as skipping a payment, whether it be your credit card bill or your car loan or your mortgage. Make sure you get it in writing, because I will tell you, going back to 2008 when we had the mortgage crisis, there were a lot of people who came in my office with mortgage foreclosures, and they told me that, you know, the mortgage company said it was okay to skip a payment or two, and you know, that's the best way to help them get a mortgage modification. And they had none of this in writing, and of course, without it in writing, there was not much I can do other than help them save their home through a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. So get everything in writing. I think that's key about that. And
Yeah,
about, yeah.
yeah,
And
that's really important, because you deal with bankruptcies. So if you don't have proof for it, then you're just going to be on the hook for it, and you're going to look bad, and that may not be taken off of your deal later on. There's a lot of things that are bad that could happen. I mean, when you're going through a bankruptcy, you're trying to do everything right. Which would lead me to one other thing that we didn't mention before, that has to do with bankruptcy, where you don't want to go off buying a lot of crazy things with your stimulus money. And it's not a ton of money, but just do you have any advice on the stimulus money per se? Like if people are getting loans, or they're going to get this check in the mail. Anything that you have for comments on that?
Well, there's certain things you certainly don't want to be doing if you're ever considering filing a bankruptcy with that money. You don't want to be giving it to your family members as a gift. You don't want to be paying your friends or family back money you may owe them. I think that it's not a lot of money, and I think that most people need that money to pay their normal monthly living expenses, and that's what I would be using the money for. If you're considering filing bankruptcy, I would suggest you get the money actually before you file. That doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't go consult with an attorney immediately, but get the money, use it for your living expenses before you file, because depending on where you live and what state you live, if you get that money after you file the case, it may have to be turned over to the court to pay your creditors. So certainly get that money beforehand. That's my advice. That's generally my advice with that stimulus money.
Now, I want to ask a few more questions that are bankruptcy related. But before I do that, I just want to highlight the fact that you've already said you guys are working, you're better than ever. You're actually, officially, you're an essential business. Is that right?
I don't know. I actually didn't look that up.
I think you are. I think attorneys are.
For finally, lawyers are getting respect, I guess. They've considered us essential.
I always thought of you as essential. But as far as courts being open, business being done, what is the situation now? I mean, or do you know yet? I know that.
Oh yeah,
I do for you.
Well, pretty much no. First of all, the courts really haven't closed to be able to file a bankruptcy. That hasn't happened. We file cases electronically. We are meeting with clients virtually to retain our services. We're meeting with our clients to assist them with getting things done to prepare the necessary documents called the bankruptcy petition and the schedules, so that we're meeting with them virtually. They're signing them virtually. We're filing their cases virtually. And then generally after you file a bankruptcy, for most individuals, either a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13, you have to go to court 30 days later. That court was canceled basically for about the last month. It's going to start up again in April the 10th. But they're doing those court appearances now by telephone, at least in my jurisdiction. Other jurisdictions may be doing it by video conference. So that's called the 341 meeting. They're doing those by telephone. As far as court hearings on certain legal issues involved in bankruptcy that generally my clients don't ever have to go to, the courts are now doing majority of that by telephone, also telephone conferencing, so I can basically appear in a court appearance by phone. So there's two different types of court appearances with bankruptcy. One is where the clients always have to go, called the 341 meeting, and then there's other hearings associated with the case that generally I go and my clients don't have to go. So we're doing that, and everything's working just fine. I mean, we're plugging along, and I think it's going to make everybody's life a lot easier, really, to be able to file bankruptcy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's good to know that it's everything is still running. So I guess for those of you watching, if you're in the Tampa area, if you have questions about this, definitely, give them a call. And I'm going to mention this again at the end, but I know that people are confused by, what they can and can't do right now, since there's so much they can't do. It's good to know that you can always call for advice, even if there aren't court hearings right now, and
Right.
still file.
Yeah, and the other thing I will say for those who are in a Chapter 13 bankruptcy and already and have been affected financially, either they've lost their job or they have a reduction in their hours for work and they're having trouble making payments. Um, Different jurisdictions are treating that differently. In Tampa, the courts have not really come out with any kind of real plan as to how we're dealing with it. I've been dealing with it on a case by case basis. In the Jacksonville court, or the Jacksonville division of the what we call the Middle District of Florida, there's a Tampa division, there's the Jacksonville division. The Jacksonville division, the courts have adopted a relatively easy process to reduce plan payments if you've been financially affected. And then other jurisdictions in other areas of the country, like I understand in Texas, I've heard, I haven't seen the order, that the judges have basically just allowed people to skip three payments. So so if you're having that kind of problem, it's really good that you contact your bankruptcy attorney and get their insight on it. I'm looking forward to getting some kind of order from our court as to how they're going to handle it. And things have been coming out, slowly. Like, initially there was no order on lawyers being able to file bankruptcy cases without actually having their client's original signature in their hand. And the court finally came out with a procedure to allow a client to sign it electronically. And so they came up with that order. Then they came up with, they just canceled the 341 hearings, and then they kind of figured out how they're going to allow that. So things are going to be kind of rolling out. Everybody's just trying to figure out how to do things. So that's why I would say it's really good to have a bankruptcy attorney and have them assist you.
Right, exactly. Now, you've worked with, can we say thousands of clients by now? You've been in business forever. But you must have a lot of clients that are currently in a Chapter 13 status. So that means that they have a plan where they have to make payments. Is anything happening with the payments? Since some of them, I'm assuming, can't work right now and can't make the payments.
Yeah, so that's what I was explaining. In some jurisdictions, they're allowing you to skip payments.
Okay.
In some jurisdictions, there you have to file something with the court to ask for a reduction, and you can always do that. In Tampa division, there's no actual order that allows you to do that. I'm just kind of anticipating that there may be an order, but always you can modify a plan payment if there's a substantial change in income. And hopefully our court, our bankruptcy court, the Tampa division of the Middle District will come up with some plan, or alternatively, the court is just going to leave it up to the lawyer and their client to come up with a motion that they would file with the court and ask the court for some kind of assistance with the client's loss of income.
Perfect. So those were pretty much the bankruptcy type questions. You've gone over a lot of stuff for bankruptcy. I had just a couple other little questions. People that would sort of have to do with bankruptcy, but they're bills that people pay. So student loans, for example, has anything come out on student loans for the Florida area?
So the federal government has given some assistance to people I believe, I know that they are waiving interest for a period of time. I don't know if they're allowing you to skip payments. Not 100% certain on you skipping payments, but I think they're waiving the interest on the loan. So I guess essentially, if you're not making the payments, you're not continuing to accrue interest. I think that that's something that they're doing on the student loans.
I mean, I guess, yeah, if you have questions on it, you should call your student
Yeah,
loan people. Just like with mortgages, you got to call them because there's nothing that's a blanket statement on it yet. It sounds like.
yeah, and I go back to whatever it is that you want. I would suggest you get some kind of confirmation of that, so that you don't walk into my office or any other lawyer's office and you tell your lawyer, well, that's what they told me, and your lawyer says, well, can I see it? Because without that in writing, it really makes it kind of hard for us to help you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and it's good to get help, but it's also good to plan for the future in case you need that proof. Get it now while you're in the process of making these arrangements for deferred payments or whatever it happens to be. The last question I have is on utilities. Now you're handling bankruptcies all the time. One of the things I'm sure that your clients deal with are the lights are being shut off because they're behind in payments, or other essential utilities that they might have. How is that being handled at this point?
I think what they're doing is, I don't think that they're allowing the electric company or the water company to cancel or terminate services right now. I think it might depend on where you live and what jurisdiction you're in. But right now, I think they're giving, I think it's a 30-day waiver, so that if you're behind 30 days, they're not going to do anything right now. Also, any kind of rent that's again backed by federal funding, I think they're putting a freeze on the eviction process. So that's just kind of another. Yeah.
I heard
So,
that too. I know it might be different for different states, which is interesting.
yeah, Florida. What the Florida's going to do for you is a little bit different than other states. Like I said, we're a little bit behind things, so hopefully the state of Florida will come up with a couple more protections for people out there and my clients and anybody who needs it for their rent or their utilities. Hoping that's going to happen, and I can keep people informed with that.
Yeah, no, that's really great. There might be a need for a follow-up update on all of this, because I know it's changing so fast every day.
Yeah, and one of the things I didn't mention going back to the bankruptcy is the only other part of the stimulus bill is that they made a provision for people who have been financially affected by the pandemic to potentially extend out their plan payments for a period of 84 months. So that may be very beneficial for those who are in a Chapter 13 to reduce their plan payments. That's just another aspect. I forgot to mention that, but I think it's kind of important.
Oh, that is really important. That's going to be very helpful for people in that situation, because when people come out of this, it's going to be, a lot of catch up that they have to do in addition to paying their current payments. So it's nice that there will be some opportunities for that. Depending on your situation, there'll be some opportunity.
It's only for a year, though. They're only going to do it for a year. So normally it's 60 months. So you're only going to get that for the next 12 months or so.
Well, I mean, hopefully that's enough. Hopefully we're not on lockdown for much longer, and people are feeling better, and the curve is flattened, so that we can be financially stable and healthy.
Yep. Mhm.
So those are the questions that I had for today. Is there anything that I missed that you wanted to tell people? I know we've covered that you're open and there to answer individual questions, because all of this stuff is a 10,000-foot overview, really. And um, if you need
Yeah.
to know how it affects you specifically, in your unique situation, I highly recommend calling the offices of Robert Geller in Tampa, Florida, if you're in that area.
Yeah, a couple of things I would like to add if I can. First of
Absolutely.
all, hopefully whoever's watching this or watching me, I hope that you're healthy and your family remains healthy. I think that's the most important thing. Um, I I would suggest that, if you have considered filing a bankruptcy and you've had a reduction in income, although it's very difficult to go through these very difficult times, this pandemic, you may want to use that to your advantage. There may be a little bit of a silver lining there, because that may help you qualify for a Chapter 7 bankruptcy as opposed to a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. That's something you may want to discuss with your attorney. I have great information on my website, which is attorneyfortampabay.com. You should probably take a look at that if you have any questions, or you can call my office at 813-405-1509. But most importantly, I just hope that everybody remains healthy and makes it through this very difficult era in our life that nobody ever could have imagined, even a year ago. I kind of first learned about this about 2 months ago, just talking to a friend, and never imagined that we would be in this position in our lives. So I thank you very much, Erica, for everything you've done in your time today as well.
Oh, thank you very much. This is, like I said, I'm not a nurse. I'd love to thank the nurses and the doctors and the police officers and the people even working in the grocery stores that are out there, just really on the front lines, still helping us, run as best we can during this time. And this is what I'm doing for businesses. So if you have a business and you'd like to do an interview, I'm happy to. It doesn't have. I usually work with attorneys. I'm happy to do that for you, even if you're not in a law firm at this point. So yeah, you're welcome, and always love working with you. Anyway,
You.
and this has been such a great interview. A lot of really good information. Thank you so much for that. And I'm
You're
sure
welcome.
everyone viewing is enjoying it as well, because it's a hopeful message. Most of this is a hopeful message, and if there's anything we need right now, it is a hopeful message.
Yep. Take care.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Have a great day, and we'll be talking to you soon.